I'm at Fourth Iron tent site, and I'm here on a very windy November day, here to do an overnight, testing out some gear that I'm going to bring on the Appalachian Trail when I do my thru hike in February. And I looked at the weather forecast for tonight. It looked kind of not great. And rather than say, oh, well, maybe I should put this off, you know, it's been a very long time since I've gone camping. And when I'm out on the Appalachian Trail, I don't get to pick the weather. There's going to be crappy weather that I'm just going to have to deal with. So I figured I'm going to not only get myself physically ready for the trail, but also mentally ready by dealing with weather conditions that are less than ideal. It has also started raining a bit, so the other benefit to doing this is I can test out my rain gear, including what I'm going to be wearing, as well as what I'm going to be using to keep my sleep system dry at night. So a little bit about this campsite. I have camped here before. It is open year-round. It's $15 for the night. It is a hike-in, so there is a parking lot, but then you have to carry everything to your campsite. Every time I've been here, it's been really quiet. Granted, I've never been here in the summertime. I've only been here in the winter, and now the late fall. But I've just really enjoyed the solitude of it. I think this is going to be home for the night. Got a nice fire pit here. Picnic table I probably won't be sitting on because it looks very wet. And I got my own bear box here. And you can see the bathroom is right over there. So this looks like a pretty good spot. I'm going to set my hammock up maybe here. I brought my War Bonnet Superfly tarp as a hangout tarp. The rain has started to come down pretty good, and I started getting pretty wet, so I'm sitting in here for a second, hoping it maybe dies down a little bit. I think what I'm going to do is set up my hammock tarp first. That way I can keep dry while I'm setting up my hammock. Very strange now the sun has come out. It's completely different. That is New England for you. So it is actually pretty warm outside, so I'm not super worried about being wet right now. I'm more worried about later. So tonight it's going to drop down into the 20s. So I brought a couple things that I can make sure that I keep warm and dry. And apparently those train tracks are still active. Because that's the second time that I've heard a train go by. This here is my winter sock. So I'm going to be putting that over my hammock while I set that up. And that, coupled with my tarp, should keep me dry, even if there's wind, which there's supposed to be a lot of wind tonight into tomorrow. But I did bring my 0 and 10 degree hammock quilt set up, so I should be very toasty tonight in those temperatures. Let's get on with setting up the hammock. A lot of times with the winter sock, it's a lot easier to just keep your hammock in it at all times if you're going to use it. So when you pack it away, you pack up your hammock, your quilt, everything that is attached to your hammock inside of it. If you don't have that, it's just an extra few steps to get it all in there. So before you do that, you have to put the underquilt on. So I have the hammock set up, so now I have to put the underquilt on, and then I can sort of take it down and put the sock over all of that, like a big ginormous burrito. So here's the deal with the sock. So the War Bonnet winter sock, or is it travel sock? I don't know. So it's gonna be facing out like this, and there's a zipper that goes all over the top of it. But we have to put our hammock in this. So we have to unzip it, put the hammock in, and then each end of the hammock is gonna come out these little holes on the sides. So in order to do that, I have to untie each end one by one and stick it through there, all while keeping the hammock from touching the ground as best I can. Don't worry about tightening everything up after. Just need to get this in here. Find the hole first, that'll help. Right, here it is. So, I just freaking dropped it. If anyone knows of a easier way to do this, I am all ears. So we have the thing in there, but we're majorly drooping, so now I've got to retighten everything back up. You'd think I was a complete noob at this, but I have done this several times before. So now our problem is that the hammock is too low. So there's two ways you can do this. You can try and tighten this more, although the way I have it is pretty good. The other thing you can do is physically raise the straps on the tree. So I think what I'll do is I'll try raising it a couple inches on each tree and see if that helps get this off the ground. I've managed to raise it up a little bit. It's still touching the ground, but barely. We're just gonna go with it. Alright, I got my camp set up as best I can. It's about 2 o'clock and I have about 2.5 hours left of daylight, or 2.5 hours left before sunset. And I figure I'm gonna get a little hike in. I'm gonna pick the shorter of the two hikes that I had planned, which should take 2.5 hours. So that should give me time to get back before it gets too dark. But I do have my headlamp just in case. So I just parked at the trailhead for Table Mountain. And I'm really glad I'm doing this mountain now, because on the way here I saw a sign that said that they close the road in the wintertime. So from what I've read about this trail, this is a 4-mile trail that sounds like it shouldn't be too difficult. So I'm hoping to knock this out to 2.5 hours or less. Table Mountain It's on 52 of the View, and it's one of the few peaks that I have left on that list. So if you don't know what I mean by 52 of the View, it is a list of 52 peaks in New Hampshire that are less than 4,000 feet, but still afford a nice view. And they're kind of all over sort of the northern half of New Hampshire. So you kind of have to scout them out and slowly knock them out. Kind of like the 48. If you've heard of that list, which is the 48 4,000 footers in New Hampshire. And most people, once they complete the 48, then they're like, oh, now what do I do? So they do the 52 at the View list after that, typically, although I've been working on both lists simultaneously. I've got to say, I'm really surprised at how warm it is right now. I'd say it's still in the mid 50s maybe, but tonight, as I said, it's gonna get cold, and then tomorrow is supposed to be cold and windy. About half mile or a little less from the top. I just came out to this ledge view. But this would have been really pretty even like a couple weeks ago with the leaves. This last little bit has been pretty steep, and also slick on this rock. I feel like you could definitely miss this. There's kind of like a little unmarked turnoff, and it just goes up into the woods. Well, I think this is the true summit. Well, my GoPro randomly died. It wasn't even looking like it was low, and then it said low battery and turned off. So I don't know what's up with that. But I'm at the summit, and as you can see, not much of a view up here. So I'm gonna head back down to the ledge. Interesting. Didn't realize, I mean, maybe there used to be a view up here, but apparently you don't really actually need to have a view at the summit for it to count for 52 with a view. That's kind of a bummer, but at least we can check it off, and the ledge views were quite nice, so at least we have that. Going down this is the part I am not looking forward to. Finally made it back to camp. Looks like my hammock tarp collapsed a little bit from the wind, but it's still covering the hammock, so that's good. So I'm gonna fix that up and then fix some dinner. I'm cooking up some mushroom risotto from Good to Go. I'm gonna add some salt to that. Key tip. And I am just probably gonna eat this and then put my food away and go in my hammock because it's getting pretty chilly and windy. So this is my stool. It kind of like collapses up and has like a little carrying case. I got it on Amazon. I think it weighs like maybe a pound. So yeah, not something I normally take on a trip unless it's like a really short hike in. But it's really nice to have on this trip because the ground is so wet and the picnic table is wet. This is really, really good. And it's starting to cool down. It's like 46 degrees right now. So holding this feels really good. So I'm inside the hammock sock, and it definitely does feel, it felt immediately warmer in here when I got in, but I'm going to stick the thermometer outside of the hammock and see what the temperature says. Oh, just sticking my hand out there feels really cold. It's 42 degrees outside the hammock. So that's a 10-degree difference. It's 10 degrees warmer in here than outside. That's pretty good. Good morning. It is so windy. The wind pulled all of my stakes out. I don't have a tarp over me anymore. It snowed. It's snowing. I stayed warm and dry. The sock protected me from the wind, but the wind woke me up a few times during the night with the noise. I am not looking forward to getting out of this hammock. Actually thinking about just packing up and going to the car. Because the idea of like boiling water while it's so windy out is not appealing. So 30 degrees outside, 38 is the temperature inside. There's one of my steaks. Oh, there's another one. Of course now it stops, but the wind is blowing so violently. And actually since I checked last time, this looks even worse. It's tied on one end. This one stake is holding on for dear life, and that one. I think the ones on the other side are... Oh, I guess I only lost one of them, and that side came undone. Alright, so whatever I did with this tarp held better than that tarp. So one thing I've got to figure out is how to stake down my tarp better. I'm all packed up. I'm getting out of here. It is cold. The wind is not showing any signs of dying down soon. So I'm gonna head back to the car and figure out what I'm gonna do. So my original plan was I was going to hike up Mount Paugus next, but I need to figure out food because I haven't eaten breakfast yet and I'm really hungry. And it's still very cold and windy. So I need to get somewhere where I could either light my stove or get some food in some other way. Well, I managed to salvage this trip. I did stop at McDonald's on the way. So I am fed now, so I feel better. But the weather seems to have improved somewhat. It's still very windy and cold, but the sun came out, so it feels like a good hiking weather now. And we're hiking up Mount Paugus, which is also on 52 with a view. I think this hike is going to take about 5 hours, and it's 10:30, so hoping to get back to the car by around 3:30. Oh, we must be at another end of the Sandwich Range wilderness. Remember when we did that overnight? This is a really cool trail. We've been walking along the stream for a little while, like right beside it. And started to get like just a tiny bit technical with some rocks that you had to climb over, but nothing like too difficult. But it's so pretty out here. All the green, moss-covered rocks. I had a few thoughts about how last night went with my sleep system, and there were some winners and losers. Probably the biggest loser being me and my own blunders, but anyways, quilts were perfect. I was very nice and warm. I wouldn't have done lighter than that. Sock was probably a game changer. With the way that my tarp completely blew off and how windy it was. Man, that sock made such a difference in keeping the heat in and the cold air from blowing directly on me. So definitely would bring the sock again. Now my tarp. So my tarp didn't fail exactly. It was more just like how I staked it in. I think that because the ground that I staked it into is kind of sandy, that they didn't hold in very well. And I probably could have, stuck them farther in than I did. And if I did that, or maybe even like put a rock over them or something, then they would have stayed in the ground. So that happened to 3 of them. 3 of the stakes came completely out of the ground. 1 of the stakes stayed in the ground but came untied from the tarp. So the other thing I have to do is make sure that the line is tied securely onto the stake. Another loser of this trip, unfortunately, has been my GoPro, because I haven't really recorded all that much footage today, and I had charged it up to full last night, and it's already saying that the battery's dead. And it definitely didn't give me any kind of low battery indicator before it just decided to shut off. So I'm not happy about that. I don't know if it's my battery, because I've heard that the batteries on those can go pretty quickly. I have to see if my GoPro is still under warranty and if I could maybe get a replacement for that, because that's not gonna cut it. Battery life is very precious on the trail. And I'm just filming on my phone now. So another blunder that I made, which probably could have prevented some of these mishaps, is I picked 2 trees that were too far apart. And what that did was it caused me to have to raise the lines higher up in the tree. And to the point where I raised it so high, like on my tippy toes, like hands reached up as far as they could go. And the hammock was still barely off the ground. I pitched the tarp over the hammock, so I had the line over the hammock one, and which caused the tarp to be too high. GoPro died again. So frustrating. It said 87%, and then just randomly powered off. So I don't know if it just doesn't like the cold. It's 38 degrees. It's not even freezing. It really should perform better than that. This phone performs better than that. So anyway, if I'd pitched my tarp lower, it would have prevented the wind from blowing up underneath it and ripping the stakes out, I think. So that's something that I'm going to have to do better for next time. Pick 2 trees that are, 13 to 17 feet apart. Looks like the summit. You can see Whiteface on the left and Passaconaway on the right. I hiked those 2 with Brian a little over a year ago on his first backpacking trip. It is cold up here, so I'm gonna head back down. Taking a slightly different trail back. On the way up we took the Kelly Trail, now we're taking the Lawrence Trail to Old Mast Road Trail, and it just kind of makes like a little loop. I'm actually kind of glad in a way that some things went wrong on this trip, just because now I know what I can fix, so it doesn't happen when I'm out on a really long trip. Just made it back to the car. It felt really long. It's like 4 o'clock now. But I'm gonna head home, probably get some food on the way. Thanks for joining me on another one of my adventures. We'll see you in the next one.